Okay, let me tell you about this song. This song threads the needle for like sensitive people like myself. So, like, psychedelic rock for me, most of it is not my gig. I like for people for whom it changed their lives and blah blah blah, like fantastic. I have nothing but respect for that, and I'm glad that it exists, and I think it's something, whatever. But most of it is like it's not my jam, it's not my bag. This song, however, I think is just enough of the kind of stuff that I do like from the 60s, which is the very vocal heavy Mamas and the Papas, like that kind of thing, combined with some of the lighter elements of that psychedelic sound. And so this to me is very user friendly, it's very consumable, and still has that kind of like feedback. I think it's sort of like controlled cacophony, you know what I mean? That to me is sort of indicative of that 60s sound. The backup singers make this song. It's the backup vocals. Come on. Yeah, and that, whatever that is, I don't know if it's I don't know what that is. There's this sort of guitar line through it, which with this really heavy reverb kind of feedback feel, and then that sort of, is it a keyboard of some kind? Is it like, I don't know what it is, but also iconic and used extremely well. Also, I love a double clap. Idea of a recommendation, like listen, Jesus, you kind of like a couple words, maybe a paragraph or two. Okay, people who wrote in the year 2525, take a note. All right, like the theme of this is, dying, right? Like what's going to happen to you after you die. That's a place to get real dark and real heavy. This song, I think, because of the percussion, because of the beat, because of the melody, and also because it's sort of lighthearted, right? It's the kind of thing where, it's the absolute opposite of that kind of ham-handed, heavy, sort of kind of vibe. This is doing everything for me. Let's take a moment for that guitar solo, all right? Which stayed in its lane, didn't try to take over the song, gave us a little break because it's a very busy song, right? There's a lot going on here. Like I love sort of it reminds me of like a rattlesnake tail. I don't know what it is, but like there's a lot of pieces in this song, a lot of individual things going on. I would imagine that if you saw this performed live, you'd be looking at a lot of musicians with a lot of instruments, right? And so I appreciate a guitar solo where the guitarist isn't taking the opportunity to make the song about the guitar solo. So let's hear it for a little restraint. also love a percussion where it sounds like hands clapping. And I don't know in this particular case if it is actually hands clapping, but I like a beat that's kind of scattered, you know what I mean? Like it's not just a pam, like a single sound, single noise. I mean, it's a single beat, but there's like a lot of pieces to it. I love that. There's something about that line too. I've never been a sinner, I've never sinned. Like, I think when I think about, like, if a line pops into my mind, it's that line, um, which is such an interesting line. And something I think that someone who is a sort of uber Christian would never say, because being flawed and being a sinner is like such an integral part of Christianity. Like it's kind of such a Buddhist thing to say, which is like, you know, I am in fact perfect. I am not in need of fixing or changing, you know, like, you know, and sort of it's just a very, it's a really interesting, like it's deep, I guess is what it is. It's deep. You know, followed by that line, I've got a friend in Jesus, right? Like so like this really companionable kind of relationship. There's something about it. It makes me think. It makes me think like what? And also, if not true, then what else, right? I don't know. I like it. I like it. So you know that when I die, it's gonna set me up with the spirit inside. Oh, set me up with the spirit inside. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and you lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to a place that's the best. Go to a place that's the best. You know, no shade to my Christian rock friends out there. Listen, do your thing. But in my humble opinion, there's not many Jesus songs that are true bops, actual bangers. This one is one of them. I'd say Jesus is Just All Right by the Doobie Brothers is another one. It's a pretty short list, but like, I mean, I love sort of the vibe of this song, right? Which is that there's sort of like, there's Jesus and then there's this other thing, right? This spirit in the sky, like whatever that is, and that is not particularly named. But also like that idea and that concept sort of put on top of this melody and this arrangement, it's just so positive. I really like it. Again, are we giving the guitarist to just like, take it to the end, Bob? Yeah, it's a classic. It is an absolute classic, and I can totally see why. There's a lot to like about that song. And again, like, to me, that's like, I don't know what year this was made. I'm going to say like closer to the 70s than the 60s. Um, I feel like it was getting away from that really prescribed sort of Doors style 60s psychedelia and moving into something that has a little bit more lightness to it, a little more playfulness to it, and I respond really, really positively to that. I love that it's kind of like a really kind of free, open interpretation of like an afterlife, kind of Christian, kind of not, you know, but just really hopeful and really optimistic about like what comes next. I really like this song. Again, it's not the kind of thing that I'm like, you know, I've got it on, you know, when Apple Music tells me what my favorites were this year. This song is not on the list. But I would say probably if it comes on the radio in the car, I'm not turning the station. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I'm glad it popped up.